Hello, thank you for coming to my speech today about wind energy. In this speech today, I will be covering the question, is wind energy the best renewable energy? Once again, I'm Joshua Dice, and let us dive right into it. Before we can determine whether wind energy is the best or isn't the best form of renewable energy, we must talk about how wind energy works. Wind energy is harnessed through machines called wind turbines, as you can see right there. Wind turbines turn kinetic energy into rotational energy, which then spins a gearbox inside of the kind of squarish thing behind the rotor. You can see there in that diagram. This is how energy is produced. Energy is then transferred on high voltage wires to the electrical grid, and then that electrical grid sends it to consumers. There are three main parts of a wind turbine, and that is the nacelle, which is the brain of the operation. It controls the yaw of the wind turbine, which determines what direction the wind is coming from, and so it twists the neck, if you will, to face the wind to optimize the electricity. Next, we have the blades. Obviously, this is an important part. Without it, we wouldn't have any spinning rotors. These blades look like airplane wings to maximize the aerodynamics and airflow over the blades. They continue to spin in a circle when air is blown into them. Now, thirdly, there's the beam. Now, the taller the beam, the better. Because the higher you are up off of the ground, the less objects there are on the ground to block the wind from flowing. Just like if you're at the edge of a lake or the edge of the seashore, there's a lot of wind blowing at you because there's no trees or buildings in the middle of the lake or the ocean to block that wind. Now we will get into why wind turbines are not the best renewable energy. First, wind turbines kill birds. Yes, it's very true. In fact, according to Audubon.com, 140,000 to 670,000 birds are killed every year. That is actually more than house cats and skyscraper windows combined, according to birdfacts.com. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, wind turbines just stand there. How did they kill birds? Well, you see, the culprits are spinning blades and high voltage wires, as you can see in these two pictures. Yes, they're not moving around, but they're moving in circles. Those blades can hit birds out of the sky, causing them to die. And these high voltage wires obviously can be touched by any living thing, really, and then immediately burnt to a crisp. Just one wind turbine apparently can kill up to 800 birds every year. The reason birds hit these so much is they got poor depth perception, and because normally they're flying around over the ground looking for prey on the ground and don't see the high voltage wire or the spinning turbine blade. Next reason that wind energy is not the best renewable energy is because it has meticulous construction. Now, there are 5 different subpoints I have for this, so hear me out. It takes a long time to choose a site. You have to find permits, make sure you can buy the land, make sure it's not a nature preserve, make sure there's no endangered species, make sure it's not around any residential areas that you're taking over or something like that. Next, it's got a dangerous work site with lots of large machinery. And that's very dangerous for humans, which are the most important creature on the planet, because they can be killed by if the work site isn't controlled well enough. Now, thirdly, the building the foundation is not a refined process, and it's got lots of options. I saw a video about this, and there are plenty of different ways you can make it, and it's all made out of reinforced concrete, which is also expensive. Now, fourthly, steel and fiberglass, speaking of expensive materials, that's what most of the materials are made of. This giant beam right here, which is wickedly long on this humongous machine carrying it, is made out of steel. And those 3 blades on top of that wind turbine, are made out of fiberglass. This is according to EarthEllipse.com. And fifth, the nacelle, the brain, as I mentioned earlier, is the configuration, getting it configured and then connected to the grid takes a long process. It's also the final touches to the process, and sometimes you don't get there. Now, that's only one part of the meticulous construction. This is the second part that I will be speaking of. This is offshore wind turbines. I haven't mentioned these yet. These are very effective tools because they're, as I mentioned earlier, they're taller and there's no objects to block the wind. But you see, they're advanced and they come in 2 different breeds. One, they can be attached to the seafloor. Now that's normally shallower waters, about 60 meters short, 60 meters shallow, I meant to say. And those are placed there by 4 steel beams that have a platform resting on top of them, which then this yellow part is placed on, and then the rest of the turbine is put on there. Now it's yellow because it's like a lighthouse. You don't want boats crashing into these things because they're really, really expensive. That's just breed number 1. Breed number 2 is the floating turbines. Now they have the same yellow thing, but there are these giant drums underneath that promote buoyance. It makes it kind of float pretty well. And then the rest of it goes up from there. But underneath it, instead of those beams, you have metal cables that are attaching it to the sea floor, the ocean floor. But the longer this takes to make, the more money is wasted, as with any construction project. And when you're at sea, there's a lot of room for error. And finally, super expensive and advanced machinery. I saw the boats that they use for these. They're like cruise liners on steroids. They've got humongous cranes. They're even developing cranes that climb up the sides of the turbine beams to be able to reach higher distances because they're getting that tall. Now, here's my solution. Nuclear energy, which is a clean form of energy, which I did not know until I started conducting my research. Nuclear energy works like this. It is fission powered by splitting 2 uranium atoms. That's what all that smoke coming out of those smokestacks is from. According to the NEI, the Nuclear Energy Institute, quote, it avoided 471 million metric tons of pollution in 2020, which is crazy because that's just about as many birds that those wind turbines killed. Next, 2 more points here. 1, it's more efficient. 1 nuclear reactor, as we saw back here, just one of those, is equal to 430 wind turbines. This is according to energy.gov. And they're more condensed and less, so it's less wasted mass, or land, if you will, territory. As you can tell here, there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, more than 10, maybe more than 15 wind turbines here in this wind farm. Back over where we looked at yonder, there are only 4, and they're in a very small area compared to this wind turbine stuff. Now, when you have a machine that works 430 times better than another machine, I would go for that machine over the lesser machine. Plus, it's got reusable fuel. Engineers are developing tech that will recycle the fuel. The fuel is these uranium pellets, right here, these black things. The uranium pellets can make as much energy as 1 ton of coal. This is according to energy.com. So, in the conclusion of my argument, we can deduce 3 things. 1, wind energy is not the best. I came into this thinking it was, but it is not. Because it is dwarfed in comparison to nuclear energy. Because it works 430 times better, it's got renewable energy also in development, and it's less condensed, there's less time being taken up, and there's a big argument against wind turbines that they look bad in natural scenery. I think so too, unless you have really nice pictures like these. But my point is, it's cleaner too. As my point, not the point of what I just said, but the third point is that it is cleaner. It's cleaner because, I mean, the wind turbines are killing birds. These are not killing birds. They're not causing they're still making energy, 430 times more, but they're not killing birds and they're not polluting these nuclear reactors. So, thus ends my speech. Thank you for coming once again, and please heed my instructions, and thank you, Mr. Jurek, for being my teacher. Have a blessed day.